Welcome to the Business Talk, a global podcast series that highlights distinguished faculty members and their impactful scholarly contributions. I'm Deepak, your host from India. We are honored to welcome Dr. Felipe Csaszar, Alexander M. Nick Professor and Chair of the Strategy Area at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business, as our distinguished guest on Business Talk today. Before we get started, I would like to introduce today's guest. Professor Felipe's research examines how decision-making architectures influence key organizational outcomes such as innovation, performance, and social impact. Drawing from both formal modeling and empirical evidence, he investigates how managers' cognitive frames, organizational processes, and the growing influence of artificial intelligence in strategy can help organizations make smarter, more adaptive decisions in an increasingly complex world. Dr. Felipe's work has appeared in leading journals such as Management Science, Organization Science, Strategy Science, and the Strategic Management Journal. He currently serves as a senior editor for Strategy Science and has previously held the same editorial role with Management Science and Organization Science. His current projects include co-editing the forthcoming book of AI and Strategy and leading Strategy Science special issue, Can AI Do Strategy? He has also contributed to the academic community as chair of the Strategy Science Division at Informs, program chair of the SMS Behavioral Strategy Division, and executive committee member of the Academy of Management Strategy Division. An award-winning educator, Professor Felipe has taught executive and MBA audiences worldwide, known for bridging analytical rigor with practical insights. Earlier in his career, he served as an assistant professor of strategy at INSEAD. He earned his PhD in strategy from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. Before entering into academia, he has led an assess management firm and served as a CEO of an internet startup. Experiences that continue to inform his research on strategic decision making. In today's episode, Dr. Felipe Csaszar discusses key ideas from his edited volume, The Handbook of Artificial Intelligence and Strategy. Let's not keep you waiting. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Felipe Csaszar to the conversation. Professor Felipe, it is a distinct privilege to welcome you on Business Talk. We are grateful to you for accepting our invitation.
Deepak, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, the handbook is organized around the four themes of theories, tools, teaching, and terrains. How does these four dimensions together provide a comprehensive lens on how AI is reshaping strategic management?
Yes. Well, so when my co-editor and I, Nanjia, and I were thinking about this handbook, we thought that AI is having so many impacts and will have so many impacts in the whole organization and the strategy of the firms. So we tried to create a handbook that had enough room for all of this impact. And we thought that there were essentially we could group all the work that we received. We received many, many different applications, submissions to the special issue. We thought about organizing them in terms of how they change strategy theories, how they change the tools that we use in strategy, like frameworks, how they change, how AI will change teaching, and how we should think about teaching given AI, and the specific effects of AI in different industries. That's the last T that we call terrains. So theories, tools, teaching, and terrains. And there's a lot under each one of these four groupings.
Professor, the editors emphasize that AI is transforming strategic management across theory, practice, and education. In what ways does AI challenge traditional strategic concepts such as capabilities, competition, and advantage? And what new theoretical questions does this arise?
Yes. So I think that the effect of AI on strategy is huge. And it is because AI affects a very central assumption of all strategy research, which is bounded rationality. That's the idea that we are humans only, and that we only know about a few things, and they only have a given time to think about things, and that we have limits to our attention, to our knowledge. And AI changes that assumption because an AI knows more, has more breadth than any human being. And an AI can think about a problem for longer than a human and from different perspectives and can integrate those perspectives. So AI changes the fundamental assumption of a strategy, bounded rationality. It's not that AI doesn't have bounded rationality, but has different bounds of rationality than humans. And that, of course, will affect everything. Will affect the frameworks that we use, the theories, will affect different opportunities in different industries, will affect how we should teach strategy. This is the by far the biggest change that has ever happened in the field of strategy.
Professor, one goal of the handbook is to bridge strategy, technology, ethics, and policy. How should strategists become competitive gains from AI with ethical, regulatory, and societal considerations when designing AI-enabled strategies?
Yes. So how to balance your question is how to balance the positive effects with AI with the dangers, yeah, of AI. So I think that the first thing is you need to think about both. You need to think about the positive things that will come with AI and the potentially negative things that may come with AI. So you want to take the good things and avoid the bad things. Let's think about the good things first. So what AI is doing is expanding the frontier of what can be done. So companies will have more time to think about their consumers and will be able to offer more customized services and products, better products. So there will be new opportunities that firms are starting to discover. It's something like what happened with the internet. The internet enabled a new generation of business models that now we're able to offer, let's say, low prices, high variety, and customized service. Something like Amazon, for example, wasn't possible before AI, before the internet. It is possible with the internet. The same will happen again with AI. AI pushes the frontier of what's possible, and then there will be a lot of new business models that become possible because of AI. It will take decades to discover those models, the same as it took decades to discover the models that were enabled by the internet. So the frontier is expanding, and AI also will help us search better within what's newly possible because of AI. So it's very exciting times. There will be many things to discover, and society and consumers should benefit a lot. At the same time, of course, there are risks. And I think that there are so many opportunities that firms should focus on the things that have the least risks. And firms should not be taking huge risks that could endanger people. And there are ways of doing that. So you need to have systems that, of course, are bounded by the law, by ethics, by society. You can add guardrails inside the systems to check that you don't cross those. And because of AI, also, you can use AI to test your systems at a scale that was not possible before. So before you could have a testing team that could test a system and maybe will try it in 1,000 different times. But now you have AI, you can try it in 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000 different times. So focus on the things where there are the most opportunities, the fewer risks, and avoid the risk by having guardrails and testing.
Professor, the handbook highlights AI's role in strategic decision making, including effect on innovation, judgment, aspirations, and search. How can organizations design human AI decision systems that enhance judgment without over relying on algorithmic outputs?
That's a good question. So there are three possibilities here. Yeah, when you have AI making decisions and human making decisions. it could be that humans are better at making decisions, or it could be that AI are better at making decisions, or it could be that AI plus humans are better at making decisions. So there's no general rule that I can tell you you should always use AI or you should always use humans. It depends. And there are many ways of using AI, and there are many ways of combining AIs with humans. So there's a huge design space of ways of organizing decision making. These are ways that didn't exist before. So it's like, in a sense, or organization design is also changing a lot because of AI. So what firms should do is that they need to explore these different ways. They need to invent, yeah, some of these things are completely new, and they need to run experiments. So firms need to try different ways of making decisions or delivering their products. So run tests, create benchmarks to see how well you are performing, and where there is a big benefit, then adopt that. There are some interesting cases from my research. For example, I have a working paper, it's available online now, where we use AIs to predict which companies are going to raise more money. It's a difficult task. So you ask AI things that haven't happened yet. There are these companies that have these business plans and they want to raise money. And then the AI has to predict which ones are going to raise more money. And then we compare this to humans. It turns out that in this task, the AIs were able to perform much better than humans. So I think in this paper, we discovered that in that very specific task, like analyzing these startups that are of a given size in a given set of technologies and predicting funds raised, and this is a specific platform also. These are companies trying to raise money in Kickstarter. AI is better than humans. So that seems like a place where you would want to use AI. But there are other places where you want to use humans and other places where you want to use AI plus humans in a specific way. So all that requires research. So firms should be doing research to a much larger scale than before.
Professor, in the section on strategic organization, the handbook points to AI's impact on governance, structure, incentives, and workforce management. How might AI-driven analytics change the way firms design organizational hierarchies, roles, and incentive systems?
Hmm. So your question is about the design, how the shape of the firm, how the org design of the firm will change in the future. Of course, it's hard to predict, but I will venture some conjectures. So I think that AI will decrease the size of the firm because now instead of some employees, you will be able to have AIs doing that. It's possible, and I think we will see that soon, that there will be very large firms that will have very few employees, potentially only one employee, that designs the firm, the service, and everything is executed by AIs. So you could see a firm of size one, it can be a very large firm of that size. I think a very important role during this period of transition that I'm thinking will be decades, it will be redesigning the organizations so that, because all of the processes or many of the processes of the firms will need to change because of AI. I would imagine that there will be something very similar to the movement that happened in the 90s that was called the re-engineering the corporation. Something like that will happen again because of AI. The first re-engineering wave was all about computers, PCs, and later the internet. But now we will have something larger than that to adapt to AI. One thought here is also, well, I said the size of the firm will decrease, but that doesn't mean that overall there will be more unemployment, because there will be new entrants. There will be new companies that will be created. So maybe the size of the large established firm decreases because now there are other new entrants that start taking other opportunities. As I mentioned before, there's this frontier that's being pushed, that's creating more opportunities. So there will be products and services that we don't know today that will exist in the future. And those will employ people.
Professor, AI is said to affect strategy implementation through flexibility, speed, and growth. What are the strategic risks of using AI to accelerate implementation, and how can firms ensure that rapid AI-enabled execution still aligns with the long-term strategic intent?
Okay. So the risks of implementation. So the first risk is, I could say, is the risk of not adopting AI. Maybe your question is a little bit different. So that the risk of adopting AI, but let me first talk about the other risk, which is the risk that you don't adopt AI, and all of your competitors or a big chunk of your competitors adopt AI. So I think that that firm will get outdated very soon. So firms should be adopting AI, or even before adopting is exploring AI, seeing where the opportunities are and implementing, adopting in the places where there are the highest payoffs. So yeah, don't miss this new wave would be the first thing. But then imagine, and this I think is your question, imagine that you took AI, you're using AI inside your company. Then what are the risks? One risk is that AI helps you move faster, but it can help you move faster in the wrong direction. So you have to be very clear about what's the strategy of the firm, what you want to do, and what the market will reward, and where's the fit between the things that you can do and what the market wants. And you should use AI to do that, to help along that dimension. So AI should be aligned with the strategy of the firm. AI should follow strategy, we could say. So for example, if a firm is trying to differentiate, then AI should be used to make that company more differentiated. Most of the uses of AI there should be about differentiation, not about decreasing costs. Because maybe you decrease costs with AI and then the quality of the service will decrease, and that will be bad for the strategy of the firm. So you need to know your strategy very well and then use AI to push the strategy of the firm, to improve the strategy of the firm along the things that matter for your firm. So move in the right direction, not the wrong direction. And there are other risks also. I think AI is making it very easy to develop new things. And you can see that in people who code. During the last 6 months or so, with the latest versions of Claude Code and now Codex, these agentic programming systems, it has become much easier to develop software, but by orders of magnitude, 10 or maybe 100 times easier to write software. So now you can develop all sort of software. The same will happen with firms. Firms will say, hey, let's do this thing. And in a week, they will have all the new website for that and all the new processes, workflows, and systems. So it becomes very easy to do things. And then the risk will be losing focus. Because at the end of the day, you need humans who are in charge of the company to understand everything that's going on, to make sure that everything is aligned, to make sure that everything is consistent. and then it will become very easy to lose focus. So don't lose focus. The other thing that AI is doing is that is making it easier to create low quality things. It's what people call AI slop. So that's another risk. You start using AI everywhere and you create, I don't know, a million blog posts, but they are all bad. That's bad marketing for your firm. So use AI in ways that improve the positioning of your firm and improve the strategy of your firm. And the other thing that I can see also from this experience of seeing people using Cloud Code is that, let me turn this off. The other thing is that because it becomes so easy to develop new things, systems become very complex very fast. So you may end up having operations that are so complex that no one can understand, and then it will be very difficult for those firms to change. You want to have a lean system, a simple system, modular system, so that you can adapt quickly to changes. If no one is controlling what the AI is doing, it's very likely to create things that are very hard to modify. So those are risks that I can see.
Professor, under the parents theme, the handbook discusses AI's implications for competition, industry structure, platforms, and ecosystems. How might widespread adoption of AI reshape industry boundaries, entry barriers, and the power of digital platforms?
Mm, yeah. So several things. So on one side, there will be more entrants. So in any platform, let's say a game platform, there will be more games because it will become easier to develop games, or a content platform, anything. There will be more content. There will be more complements for those platforms. Uh, you will see those coming up faster because the cost of production will decrease. Something like that may happen with movies also. Anything that requires content will become faster to implement. Um, so I can see platforms having more complements inside. Another change I could see, you talked about entry barriers and boundaries between industries. I could see firms from one industry entering into another industry because now there will be new connections between these industries. AI will make those connections. So, for example, a couple of days ago, Anthropic, the ones who create Claude, bought a biotech company. You would say, hey, what's the connection? How AI is connected to biotech? Well, there's now a connection because the same as you have software that can create software, AI creating software, you could have an AI creating new medicines. And what you need is a testing loop. For software, you write some software, and inside the computer, you can test the software. With AI, creating a medicine, you create a medicine, but now you need to test the medicine, and that requires a lab. So you require now to have a lab in order to run those tests. And because of that, it makes sense for an AI company to acquire a biotech company that has that type of automated lab. So like that, there will be new connections and new opportunities, and you will see companies that really understand well their AI capabilities going into other industries. So I could see an expansion of AI firms in the same way, in a similar way, as over the last 30 years, you saw an expansion of internet firms. You see Google and Amazon today are like large conglomerates. They own companies, all sort of different companies, because they are all connected by the internet. There are synergies between having the internet and now content, for example, for Amazon doing streaming, or email for for Google, or YouTube. That's content again. So there will be new synergies, and you will see companies jumping from one industry to another. This all doesn't, I said at the beginning that there will be more entrants. That doesn't mean that there will be infinite competition. Yeah? There will also still exist entry barriers. And these cases, yeah, like Amazon and Google provide examples. Yeah, those entry barriers will be given by complementary assets. Some companies will have things like data that no one else has, and that will give them an advantage over the other firms. So there will be more entrants, but you will still see large firms at the same time. At some point, they could become very large firms, and that's a point where the government will have a role and will need to regulate those industries. Okay?
Professor, the handbook addresses non-market strategy, including stakeholders, ESG, and DEI in an AI context. How can organizations use AI in ways that support multi-stakeholder goals and ESG commitments rather than undermining fairness, inclusion, or trust?
Yeah. So this is of very, very important. How do you ensure that you are not hurting some of your stakeholders? So I think firms can do many things with AI. So the first one is in your systems, you need to incorporate guardrails. So whenever AI proposes something, there needs to be a system that checks that that is within the bounds of what the AI should be able to do. You also need to test. So every new system should be tested many times, more than before. And here's this idea that I mentioned before of using AI to automate, to augment the testing and do much more testing than what you were doing before. Another type of problem that has to do with equity and inclusion in an AI is algorithmic bias. The idea that AI is trained with data that has some biases, and then a system trained on that data can perpetuate those same biases over time. So you should be careful about that. You should question and you should analyze the type of outputs to be sure that the AI system is not doing that. And for a long time, I think we will need to have human intervention and human oversight of all these systems. And one more important thing, particularly important for platforms that involve multiple players, yeah, and that there's a community out there that depends on that platform, is you need to involve the community in those decisions. Ask if you're a game development company, you need to ask the game developers, what do they think about this new use of AI? So that you move in a way in which all your main stakeholders are on board with those changes.
Professor, a key contribution of the volume is translating research into actionable guidance for practitioners. What framework or principle could help managers decide where AI should augment human strategies versus where strategic judgment should remain primarily human led?
Yeah. So I think that at this point, we are very early we are at the beginning of AI used in business. I think that there was a pre-history of this, which AI was AI almost as statistics, like machine learning that people talked and big data over the last 10 or 15 years. But the uses that are now allowed by Gen AI are very different. And we don't know a lot about it. You know? We know that there are opportunities and that we need to experiment in order to decide where it adds value and where it doesn't. Um, so as I mentioned before, experimenting and testing and measuring results, benchmarking, all of that, I think that that's the main rule that you should use in order to decide when to use AI and when not to use it. Come up with an idea, run a test. Does it work? If it works, adopt it and try it at a larger scale and continue improving it. One important thing about AI, something we discuss in the volume and that I've talked about in my research, is the effect of AI on search. That with AI, because an AI has much more breadth than any human, you see, a person in a lifetime can read a given amount of things, and learn a given amount of things. An AI is trained on everything that's published, essentially. So has much more breadth than any human. An AI can help you then in that process of search, can help you to brainstorm possible uses, explore each one of those options, evaluate each one of those options. For example, you could evaluate them also by simulating responses. And in the handbook, yeah, some of the chapters talk about these different stages: brainstorming, exploring, prototyping, simulating, evaluating. And that's a way of making the decision what to do and what not to do. There's no one rule for everything. Yeah, it will depend.
Professor, I would like to conclude this episode with one last question. The
Mhm.
handbook foregrounds the pedagogical challenge for preparing future strategists to work alongside intelligent machines. How
Yeah.
should strategy education evolve in terms of curriculum, skills, and learning experiences to equip students for AI-intensive strategic environments?
Yes. So education must change and will change. I have no doubt that that will happen. So we just need to look back at the history. So all of the technologies, all of the big technological waves, yeah, are incorporated today in how we teach. So I teach in the MBA program. I can tell you about that. So, for example, many of our cases that we teach in the mainstream and the main strategy courses will be about the internet, will be about platforms. So that's the last technology wave. But there are also cases about the previous ones. Yeah. So, for example, factory production or large scale retailing, supermarkets. All of those were inventions at different points over the last 100 years or so. And that all made it into the classroom in the form of cases. So we will embrace this new technology again. And when we look back at the things that we teach, yeah, let's say in 10 or 20 years from now, we will see that, hey, there was a huge change. And now a lot of what we teach has to do with AI. Another way in which we embrace technology teaching was in terms of the tools that we use. So all students use computers today. They run spreadsheets and they use word processors and they Google things and they use the internet for their meetings and presentations and conversations like the ones we are having now. All of that, the same will happen with AI. This will be incorporated into the classroom in the form of, okay, people will have to learn how to prompt, how to verify results, how to compare different AIs, how to use agents to accomplish more complicated tools, how to simulate responses, how to prototype new products quickly, how to create organizations that use AI in different points. So we are at the beginning, some schools are more advanced in this than others, but over time they will all get there. I've been teaching since the last year a course on AI and strategy, which is exactly a course where we try to think about all of these things, how it's really going to change strategy and how we should change many things, including how we teach in the business school.
Thank you very much.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
please. Please go ahead, sir.
uh, at the end of the day, I think that this technology will create a lot of change. I see the positives. Yeah, I think that the positives will be larger than the negatives. This will push the frontier. There will be new possibilities, new value that will be created. many new entrants, and progress. So I think it's a very exciting time to be around, to be seeing all of this development and to be able to be part of all of this change.
Thank you very much, Professor Felipe, for your insightful and thought-provoking session today. Your perspectives on strategy and artificial intelligence have given us a rich set of ideas to reflect on and carry forward in our own work. We deeply appreciate with the clarity with which you explain complex concepts and the generous way you engage with our questions. Your examples and framework have not only advanced our understanding, but also challenged us to think more critically about how organizations make decisions in an AI-driven world. On behalf of everyone and Business Talk, thank you once again for taking the time to share your expertise with us. We look forward to continuing to learn from your work and hope to have the opportunity to welcome back again soon. Thank you so much.
Deepak, thank you so much for the invitation. It has been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you.